After talking to the company leader, I go back to my old quarters. Everything is in the mood for departure. But we are still supposed to be used as a spearhead and also as a mobile defensive element. Therefore, we remain in Mozdok for now and attempt to oppose the Russian with a few vehicles. A lot has happened during my absence. We have many losses in tanks and, regrettably, also some comrades didn't make it. Apparently, the Russian considers this position as important, indeed, and is pushing from all sides. It is predominantly cavalry regiments which are making our life difficult. At night, they infiltrate unnoticed in large groups through the thin and only spottily manned front line. Are they suddenly standing in the back of our troops or attacking the supply trains? This in turn weakens the frontline units, since we are forced to also secure the supply routes. There are simply not enough units here which could take over security tasks. Meanwhile, Cossack units have been ordered into our sector in order to deal with these raids. In the evening, I'm sitting together with several comrades and have to tell everything from the homeland about the wedding and the celebrations. Of course, the comrades also want to know the slippery details of the wedding night. But I don't share that with anyone, and that will remain that way. I tell about my flight on board the Junkers 52, and that I'd rather be sitting in a tank when the rats are after my skin. Every stone can be tossed right through such a tin can. After a restless night, it's off to the situational conference the next morning. Again, I'm standing there as the only corporal among the old commanders. Here, too, the lines have been thinned out. Not only sergeant ranks, but also 2 non-commissioned officers are present at the conference. The situation is apparently really desperate. Now it's important that the first man inside the tank has experience. There, not just the rank matters. That, too, I notice among the old hands. One is treated as a comrade who has already accomplished something. The situational map looks if many lines and locations had been drawn, erased again, and then drawn back on. So there's always a back and forth of who is occupying which sector at the moment. We receive information about the fact that a far advanced post consisting of artillery observers and pioneers has been cut off for 2 days. Due to the unfordable terrain, the Russians aren't able to overrun them. But retreat is also impossible for the comrades. With 10 tanks, we're supposed to form an assault wedge, the Panzer IIIs in the center, to the right and left the stubbies, and to the rear our last long-barrel tank. God, I'd like to have that one in my hands someday. But it's still not meant to be. We're getting ready. With maximum ammo load out, it's going toward the enemy. Following behind us are another 3 armed personnel carriers with infantry, which in an emergency will join in support. We are keeping between the Lenin Canal and the Terek. I remember the Berlin airman and the saying, "The tank ace from the Terek," right? Now I am far from being a tank ace, but I'm still alive, and that is most important. Tank kills, well, it's been more than 20. I should count them sometime. But the question is, as a tank gunner or commander? That also doesn't matter. Now it's getting serious first. We move forward. The sandy soil makes it difficult for the tanks. My comrades in the Panther III have had 7 missions with different replacement commanders. Generally, they'd been sent out on security or defensive, rarely on offensive operations. They have made it through everything without a scratch, but they are happy that I'm back again. We still have the hatches open and are standing in the turret. There come the red airplanes already. Schmidt had already alluded to this. As soon as we drive off somewhere, the planes are there after an hour and throw something on our heads. I would almost say that the Reds have some spies in Mozdok and receive information as soon as we attack. We close the hatches and fan out to give them little possibility to hit us. Our driver already knows this game. We hear the bombs and onboard weapons of the attackers. We don't have any anti-aircraft guns with us. Our armored personnel carriers are firing with the machine guns on the low attacking yaks. After 20 minutes, the nightmare is over. 2 tanks are disabled and stay behind. We leave a security detail of infantry with the tanks and move on. It's still close to 15 kilometers to the small cauldron. We reach for the unfavorable terrain and take a short marching break. The combat group commander orders to split the unit. We are supposed to approach the cauldron from both sides. The cut-off units are then supposed to break out with us over the left flank while we make some ruckus on the right side and distract the Russians. I'm moving into the right wing with my tank. So 4 tanks with no infantry to the right and the remainder to the left. We are supposed to initiate the assault. In 10 minutes, the others will attack, cause maximum confusion, and then bail out the comrades. Alright then. We struggle through sand and rocks until we finally left the unfriendly terrain behind. Our lead tank announces that we are advance about another 1,000 meters and then attack in a wedge formation. The long barrel tank is going in the middle in order to have the best effect. We are in position. The order of attack is given. We have discovered a few Russian emplacements. They have not noticed us yet. Simultaneously, we open fire. As if one is poking into a hornet's nest, the spectacle begins. We fire at identified targets and this way try to distract the Russians. A few T-34s are rolling from well-camouflaged positions and stand in our way. They certainly must think that we are the assault unit. But they are in for a surprise. It doesn't take long and the first T-34s burst apart. The Panzer IV Long has started to reap its harvest. Now the Russians probably have a little more respect and are more cautious. The first anti-tank gun shells are hissing past us. They have certainly turned their guns around and are now putting fire on us. After 15 minutes, the right flank is engaged. Already one can notice that the enemy fire is decreasing noticeably. So we advance once more and roll up the first small field bunkers of the Russians. They are unable to hold on. With the courage of desperation, they fight back tenaciously. But we can't be stopped. Nevertheless, there are hits on our tanks. One Panzer IV is hit and loses the track. We give covering fire because the tracks has to come back on. It's a nightmare for every tanker to have to repair the track in battle. We push ourselves ahead of the comrade's tank and try to shield it as well as possible. Already the other crew is outside and tries feverishly to replace the track links. That is really hard work for the men, but we can't abandon the tank. We have to roll ahead further and try to distract the opponent so that our men can get out of the cauldron. 3 T-34s are already sitting burning in front of our assault spearhead. Over the radio, we get the order to disengage from the enemy. So apparently it worked. The driver shifts into reverse. We slowly roll, firing back to the Panzer IV. The track is back on. The entire unit manages to get out of the firing range of the Russians. After a short time, we meet up with our comrades. Unfortunately, both their tanks have suffered severe hits. Fortunately, they only have a few wounded and no casualties. Both tanks had been able to be taken into tow. We relocate back in the direction of Mostock. On our way, we are held up yet again by an artillery barrage, but it hardly causes any damage. We got all men of the combat detachment out of the town. No one was left behind. That's a good performance. We can be satisfied. Back in Mostock, there is still a situational conference. Master Sergeant Schwerburg of the Panzer IV, which had suffered the track hit, thanks me that I had covered him with my combat vehicle. To me that is understood, but I am happy about the praise and the other commanders note in appreciation. Nevertheless, the situation is dicey. If now our units are being cut off already, and we as the fire brigade have to break the encirclement, then the matter is serious. In the evening, we have some time to organize a few extra rations for ourselves. I'm out and about in Mostock and looking at the hustle and bustle in the streets. A small combat group of armored reconnaissance vehicles and armored personal carriers get on the way and is leaving Mostock in a southerly direction. Few Russians are visible. A little Russian boy is standing by the road, apparently unfazed by the vehicles which are rushing past him. It's not unusual that the children stare at the combat vehicles in Navy. But as a rule of thumb, it's usually a few more kids. I keep watching him. He squeezes into the corner of a building. Apparently, he's got a piece of paper and is writing something down. Then another boy comes running, grabs the note and disappears into a passage. There I won't run after him, but I better make a report about it. The next morning, I go to the Sarge and tell him what I observed. He listens carefully and reaches for the field telephone. He lets me know I should wait here until an officer was here. From the staff company comes a Lieutenant Fuchs, responsible for intelligence. So a man of the counterintelligence or just a man who gathers information, it doesn't matter to me. The main thing is that I pass along the information. I tell him what I observed and also mention that we always, shortly after leaving Mostock, get hit by Russian artillery or airplanes. We've got some spies here, he lets me know. The Russians are using children that are spying on everything and then pass it on to a contact, a wireless radio, and the Ivan already knows that we are coming. I'm detached to Lieutenant Fuchs for 2 days and I'm supposed to point out the boy to him. In this chaos, that will be like finding a needle in a haystack. But there are only 6 major routes out of Mostock, and 3 of which don't lead to the front. So we start our search. By the second day, we still don't have anything tangible. But a reconnaissance detachment with tank support is supposed to depart. Therefore, we move into the vicinity of the outgoing road and wait. Children playing are nothing unusual. But we notice that the children scatter with the first noise of an engine and apparently take some positions. There I spot the boy from last time again. I point out the boy to Lieutenant Fuchs and he takes some notes. I'm dismissed and am back with my platoon. Kids, spies, partisans, what will be next? In the evening I'm writing to Gudrun that I miss her and would soon again try to receive some leave. Also to my sister I write a few comforting lines. I'm dead tired and have to get some sleep. I think about the children who in this turbulence of the war also just want to survive. But if my comrades have to die because of this, we have to do something about it. It takes a long time until I fall into a restless sleep.